After a 10-year journey, a party of adventurers returned to the royal capital as heroes, having defeated the Demon King. Himmel the hero, Eisen the warrior, Heiter the priest, and Frieren the mage celebrate along with the rest of the city as they reminisce over their journey. The next day, however, Frieren departs to continue her hobby of collecting spells, and she spends the next 50 years traveling alone doing just that. 50 years after defeating the Demon King, Frieren returns to the capital to keep a promise she made to Himmel and the others. So, they meet up with Eisen and Heiter, and with the party back together again, Frieren takes them on a little adventure to the spot where the view of the Era meteor shower is most beautiful. As it turns out, it's the last sight Himmel sees as he passes away, and at his funeral, the usually stoic Frieren sheds tears when she realizes just how little she knew about her friend. Heiter, Eisen, and Frieren then all go their own separate ways, and after 20 years, Frieren visits the corrupt priest to repay her debts to him before he dies. She denies his request to take on his war orphan Fern as an apprentice, but she agrees to decipher a grimoire that may prolong his life. She also agrees to teach Fern magic in her spare time, and over the next 4 years, the child progresses remarkably. Heiter's health declines in that time, as he becomes bedridden, and whilst Frieren works on deciphering the grimoire, Fern practices vigorously to hit the rock across the cliff, which Heiter told her would prove she's a proper mage. Frieren soon finishes deciphering the grimoire, which contains no immortality or vitality spells, and Heiter, expecting this, asks her if Fern has become a proper mage. Frieren states that she has, and so Heiter says there is no reason she cannot take her on her travels, now that she won't get in her way.
He tricked her.
Heiter soon passes away, and Frieren pours drinks on his grave. Then she and her new travel companion set off on their own adventure. They gather simple spells and stop by a village where they clean up a statue of Himmel the hero and spend 6 months looking for a flower to plant around it.
Fern gets fed up with how Frieren is so unbothered about time though.
On their next stop, in the port city of Worm, Fern is delighted to find Frieren has given her a birthday gift, and is even more delighted that she is making an effort to get to know her, something she learned the importance of from Himmel. Frieren has Fern practice her defensive magic. Then they stop by a town Frieren visited with the party of heroes to finish a job. Qual, a demon they fought 80 years ago, is about to break free from the seal which Frieren placed on him, being that he was too powerful to defeat. Though 80 years is a long time, and the offensive spell that he developed called Zoltrak has become quite commonplace in that time. As Fern defends them, Frieren uses the opportunity to use his own spell against him, and disintegrates Qual. The villagers thank her, as well as the old man who trusted Himmel's word that Frieren would come to finish the job one day, and the mages set on their way. Soon after, they spend months cleaning up the debris covering the beach of a small town, and enjoy the beauty of the New Year's festival together, an experience Frieren missed out on with the heroes' party 80 years ago.
She loves her sleep.
On their next stop, they visit Eisen, and Frieren helps her old friend find the notes of Flam the legendary mage, Frieren's old master. Eisen wants to find the notes to help Frieren, as it is said that Flam was able to converse with the dead, and Eisen and Heiter both wanted to help her tell Himmel how she feels, and to get to know him better. Flam predicted that Frieren would one day have this kind of regret, and when they reach her notes, she tells of a place called Oriol, at the northernmost end of the continent, where souls rest. Essentially heaven. Oriol is located in Ende, where the Demon King's castle is located, and Frieren decides to believe in something for once, as she sets the same destination she once traveled with Himmel's party. Eisen notices changes in Frieren, for the better, though he elects to stay behind, as Frieren and Fern set off, this time with a destination in mind. They walk through a mountain pass where they are visited by the ghosts of someone dear from their past, but they are both able to see past the phantom and blow it away. They then come across a dragon nesting atop a grimoire that Frieren wants, but rather than play a long game of tag with it, she decides to add a companion to their group. They enter the nearby town, and meet a boy named Stark, Eisen's former apprentice, whom the villagers believe to be a brave warrior who stood up to the dragon. In reality, he's scared shitless, though he comes around after a little speech from Fern, and shows up to hold off the dragon. Before he even realizes it, he defeats it all on his own, proving that he is a great warrior, just as Eisen told Frieren. Stark now decides to join their party, wanting to have a fun and ridiculous adventure of his own, just as his master did 80 years ago. Though on their next stop in the fortress city of Wall, the checkpoint through is blocked, and though Frieren is more than willing to wait it out, the more short-lived Fern and Stark decide to find a way through. Though they are unable to, they share a nice moment where Stark says how he wants to complete his journey in time to share his stories with his master while he's still alive. Then, the Castellan of the city apologizes to Frieren for keeping them, and lets the hero through the checkpoint to the Northern Lands, with the same send-off the hero's party once received.
Apparently, elves are very rare and lack reproductive instincts. Frieren herself hasn't seen one in more than 400 years.
They walk through a town throwing a festival celebrating the party of heroes, then enter the domain of Graf Granat in the Northern Lands. A few representatives of the Demon King's army are in the city to make peace with the ruler of the domain, but Frieren knows demons cannot be reasoned with, and is thrown in the dungeon for her public display of aggression. Fern and Stark visit her, and she explains to them just how pointless it is to reason with demons. When part of the hero's party, Himmel spared a demon child that imitated human speech, but it eventually killed the village chief that kept it alive, and as Frieren slayed it, it's said that it uses the word mom in the face of danger, because it seems to stop humans from killing them. Graf Granat shows his intent to kill the peace envoy Lord Lugner, but the demon tricks him with some bogus story about how he killed his father, and the human lets him live. One of the other demons, Drat, then attempts to kill Frieren, but she shows him no mercy, and then she escapes the scene of the crime.
He killed a guard before entering.
When Graf Granat confronts Lugner about the guard's death and his missing subordinate, the demon abandons its facade and kills all the soldiers, then captures Graf. Frieren leaves town to take out the leader of the demon forces, Aura the Guillotine, leaving Fern and Stark to deal with the two remaining demons in town. They team up to surprise the demons and rescue Graf. Then when he's treated, he says that he'll pardon Frieren, and how his family owe the party of heroes a great debt. Meanwhile, the elven mage confronts Aura, one of the 7 sages of destruction, and plays around with her headless puppets for a while. Aura's main technique places the soul of her and her opponent on a scale, the one with the greater mana gaining control of the other, thinking herself superior because Frieren is suppressing her mana.
Demons don't understand the concept of suppressing mana because it's tied to their status.
She places both of their souls on the scale, only for their overwhelming Frieren to come out on top, and she commands the demon to kill herself.
Her master Flam was the one who taught her how to conceal her mana to fool demons, dubbed a cowardly way for a mage to fight.
Back in the city, the roles reverse as this time, Fern and Stark are caught off guard by the 2 remaining demons. But Fern is able to overwhelm the blood-controlling Lugner with her sheer volume of offensive spells, whilst Stark has to defeat the demon Linny, who has copied Eisen's fighting style, and though her technique is superior to Stark's, the warrior keeps getting back up and eventually slices her apart. Graf thanks the adventurers for their help, and they remain in town until nearly winter, when they decide to continue their journey north. With conditions in the northern plateau looking poor, each adventuring party must be accompanied by a first-class mage. Fern got certified as a third-class mage, but Frieren hasn't bothered to register with the ever-changing Magic Association. So, they set their destination as Oisurst, and Graf bids them farewell, though they get quickly lost in the bitter cold of the north. After Stark passes out, they find a cabin to take shelter in, where they meet an elf by the name of Kraft the monk. They wait out the winter in the cabin with him for nearly 6 months, sharing some nice moments. Then they go their separate ways. Our party then continue on through another blizzard to reach the village of the sword, where Himmel pulled out the hero's sword.
No, he didn't.
Oh, well the rumor is that he did. Frieren keeps the promise she made to a past village chief, and after 80 years she finally returns to defeat the Lord of the Mountain that's been harassing the village. They then move on, and in the next town, Stark shares with Fern how he's from a village of warriors, but was seen as a failure in his father's eyes, as opposed to his impeccable older brother. One day, when the village was attacked by demons, his loving brother told him to run, and he never looked back. It being his 18th birthday, Fern gets him a gift, and Frieren makes him large Hamburg steaks, a custom from Eisen's region to honor warriors who have worked hard. Later, Frieren saves a man from a bottomless swamp, and they end up needing his help after Stark is bitten by a poisonous snake. The priest, Sign, cures Stark from the poison which his brother called incurable, and his priest brother then asks Frieren to take his brother with them on their adventures, being that it's what he really wants. Though he refuses the request, Frieren is reminded of how she initially refused to join Himel's party, and so she resolves to give Sign the push he needs to become an adventurer like her. Eventually, after days of harassment and a little push from his brother, Sign decides to join them, but only for a little while, as he hopes to find his childhood friend who left on his adventure 10 years ago. When Fern's birthday comes around, she is furious at Stark for not getting her a present, but thanks to a little wisdom from Sign, the two lovebirds make up, and they pick out a present together. The design of the bracelet Stark buys her has the same design of a ring Himmel once gave Frieren, and it represents eternal love.
Stark had no idea, but Himmel did.
The party then come across a village put under a curse, and one by one they all begin to join the villagers' fate by falling asleep. Eventually, even Frieren falls asleep, but she tells Sign, who is resistant to curses, to wake her when he finds the monster responsible, though he can only do so for 5 seconds. Sign finds the monster and struggles against it. Then he thinks back to what Heiter once told him, that he was always able to trust Frieren's words. So, he chooses to do the same and wakes her, 5 seconds being more than enough for her to keep her promise to kill the monster. After saving the town, they drop by the fortress city of Vorig, where Stark is recruited by the lord of a great family to fill in as his deceased son until an important soiree in 3 months' time.
They look identical, and only those close to the family know the son died in battle.
Being that they need the money, the party agree to this request, and both Stark and Fern are trained in proper royal etiquette, and at the soiree, they show off their newly acquired dance skills. When the job is complete, Frieren takes them to a village where she wishes to visit an old friend before he passes. Old Man Vol is a dwarf, who's protected the village his human wife loved for over 400 years, and he and Frieren spend a week catching up and reminiscing about the past. Just as his wife is the reason he protects the village, Himmel is the reason Frieren decided she'd try and get to know people. They soon say goodbye to Vol. Then in the next village, they find an elderly woman who knows of Sign's friend, Guerrilla Warrior's destination. Yes, that's his name. And so, it being in the opposite direction of Oysterst, Sign parts ways with the party. Oh wait, there's a blizzard. The party remain in the village for a month awaiting the cold wave to pass, and they enjoy their time there in the meantime. When the cold passes, Sign says his goodbyes, and the party continue on their way. After Fern gets a whittle sick, our party then finally reach Oysterst, where the first-class mage exam will take place in 2 months. Frieren and Fern spend the time training, and when the day finally arrives, the first stage of the test has them grouped into separate teams of 3. Each team must capture a small but extremely quick and cunning bird known as a stele, and have all party members present with it by sunset the following day. Frieren's party is made up of the 2 third-class mages Lawin and Kane, who fight about the most trivial things, though they manage to work together to capture one of the mana-sensitive hyperspeed birds, then are immediately attacked by another team who are lying in wait to steal it. Frieren is much more powerful than her opponent, the second-class mage Denkin, thought, and she defeats him fairly easily, then retrieves the stele from his party member. She then helps out her teammates by destroying the barrier erected by the founder of the Continental Magic Association and her master's old teacher, the elf Seri. The 2 girls are overwhelmed by the second-class mage Richter's physical attacks, but after Frieren destroys the barrier, the rainfall plays to Kane's advantage, and they defeat him.
That party ends up taking one from another party and passing anyways.
Fern's team consists of the sinister third-class mage Yuel and the stoic second-class mage Land, and they similarly are attacked for possession of their bird by another party, but they manage to beat back their attackers one by one, who also get lucky and capture a bird even after having been beaten. In the end, 6 parties of 3 pass the first test, and after a couple days of rest and relaxation, the second test is set to begin. At the ruins of the king's tomb, the test proctor, Sensei, gives the participants one simple task: reach the deepest floor of the tomb.
Nobody has ever done it.
They are each given a bottle with a golem inside that, when shattered, will take them back to the entrance, thereby causing them to fail the test. Thus, the test commences, with dawn being the time limit, and though Denkin suggests they all work together to pass, some are too proud to do so. And so they all slowly enter at different times in small teams, and Sensei decides to tag along with Frieren and Fern for their dissension.
She won't help them or hinder them though.
Frieren finds joy in exploring the dungeon, another way Himmel the dungeon lover has influenced her, whilst the other groups struggle to progress, some even dropping out. As the remaining test takers make their way to the bottom, they are faced with perfect replicas of themselves, and Denkin's group retreat when faced with a Frieren clone. When Frieren and Fern finish exploring, they also reach the room Denkin's team are holed up in, and they come up with a plan to defeat the elf replica. They learn from Lewin and Kane that these replicas are being controlled by a monster from the mythical era, known as the Spiegel, and over time all the replicas will gather at the bottom. After Fern exposes one of Frieren's fatal vulnerabilities, she and her master take on the elf replica, whilst the others split up to take on the other replicas, with each other's weaknesses in mind.
Random flashback.
When Flam died 1,000 years ago, Frieren delivered her will to Seri. Being the one to convince the Emperor to normalize the study of magic amongst humans, Flam has asked Seri to take her place in teaching humanity magic, but the long-lived elf declines her request, as Flam expected.
She teaches them now, though.
Whilst Seri was pessimistic of humanity's future with magic, Frieren was excited to see it, even if one became more powerful than her one day. As all the mages split up to hold off the replicas, some hold their own, whilst others are overwhelmed and forced to drop out. Yubel demonstrates her unique cutting magic that makes short work of Sensei's replica, but even the defeated replicas begin to re-manifest. Meanwhile, Frieren makes herself vulnerable to give Fern an opening, and though she destroys 2 of her master's arms, she witnesses the true depths of her power. Then the real Frieren finishes the job, and they open the final door to shatter the Spiegel, causing all of the replicas to dissipate. And so, 12 mages clear the second test, and they get another break before the third and final test. Fern is upset that Frieren suggested replacing her broken staff that was given to her by Heiter, but the elf shows she truly cares, as she has it repaired for her student. Thus, the day of the third and final test arrives, an interview with Seri, and Frieren states that her intuition is never wrong. Already confident of the fact that Seri would fail her, Frieren explains how her favorite spell to create a field of flowers, which Seri thinks is useless, is what brought her and the party of heroes together.
She cast that spell for Himmel once as a boy when he was lost in the forest, and he always remembered the mage who helped him.
Intent on failing Fern as well, as Frieren expected, Fern exceeds her expectations, and Seri asks her to be her student, and though she refuses, the elf passes her regardless. Seri also passes Denken, Yubel, Land, Wirbel, and Method, acknowledging that they have a strong group this year. Fern and Stark then share a nice conversation with Denken, who became a mage because of Frieren, and the elf similarly listens to Wirbel, who shares that it's because of the stories of Himmel the hero that he ended up where he is. That night, Fern is granted her first-class mage privileges, whilst Frieren is attacked by Seri's student Lernen, who wishes to etch his name in history by killing the legendary mage, but she talks him down by stating that his name will be remembered by Seri. Then the party are finally ready to leave Oisurst. They say a quick goodbye to Lewin and Kane, and Frieren says that she makes quick goodbyes because, as Himmel used to say, it would be embarrassing when they met again. Thank you for watching this Frieren Beyond Journey's End recap. The last episode came out last week, though I believe the dub still has a couple more to go. If you enjoyed, you know what to do. Like the video, comment, subscribe too? Yeah, subscribe, that one too. Leave your feedback down below. I love you all, take it easy, and peace.